Oh boy, I sure do love virtual reality. God, it's like I can just touch that Facebook wall. Just look at this. So lifelike. Yeah. Really come a long way, huh? But I still feel like something's missing. It's just not what we were promised. Where are all the neon outfits? And the misused computer slang? And Jeff Bridges? I want that.
Well, while it might not deliver on the Jeff Bridges front, Tron 2.0, according to Tron creator Steven Lisberger, was actually intended to be the official sequel to 1982's Tron, but was later considered non-canon by Tron Legacy director Joseph Kosinski. The game was released in August 2003, and was developed by Monolith Productions. You know, the guys responsible for this. And this.
And this one. But we don't talk about that one.
The game has generally had a pretty good reception, with an average of 84% on Metacritic, and its own cult fanbase and dedicated mods still being followed today.
Now just to make this completely clear before we begin, I have never played this game before, so there aren't going to be any nostalgia goggles or any preformed bias in play in this review. I'm looking at this completely objectively. Well, let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. Tron 2.0, ladies and gentlemen.
The game is set in 2003, and follows Jesus Christ, give me some space! Also, I'm pretty sure nobody except for Granny is playing Wii Sports move like that when playing a game. The game follows Jet Bradley, the son of the original film's Alan Bradley, a game developer at his father's workplace. His dad goes missing in the middle of a phone call, so Jet decides to rush off to his dad's office to find him. Once there, he finds his dad's AI Mathria, who threatens to zap him with a laser while he does absolutely nothing.
Mathria, stop what you're doing!
Nice try, kid. Real authoritative. One Spider-Man-esque title sequence later, and we're into the game. Now for the most part, the basic controls and handling for this game feel very similar to Half-Life, only with a few additional features such as leaning round corners. But the most important feature, and what I dare say should be the most iconic feature of the entire game, is the disc combat. The discs can be shot individually, can be remote controlled, or they can be used as a shield to deflect enemy discs. And while this all sounds well and good, there are a lot of problems with it. Unlike other FPSs where you can fire a shot and have pretty strong faith in the knowledge that your shots will hit your target, a lot of the time the discs are so slow that you just end up missing your target entirely. And because you can recall the discs at any point, chances are even if you're on target to hit your opponent, you'll end up recalling them before you've even made an impact. And in the off chance that you are able to hit your opponent with a disc successfully, it does so little damage that you won't feel like you've really accomplished anything. However, as I said before, you are able to use your disc as a shield to deflect enemy discs back at their throwers. Whilst this is a cool concept, there's a bit of wait time between activating the shield the first time and being able to use it again, which generally renders it useless when faced with more than one enemy. And you will constantly be faced by large waves of enemies, as they all attack in big groups. The best way I can describe the experience is like being a batter at a baseball game and having to go up against 30 pitchers at the same time, and the entire baseball game is being played in a corridor. In case you hadn't guessed from the gameplay footage or from my descriptions, Tron is very much a corridor shooter. Whilst this isn't that big a deal and would generally be okay with any other FPS, because of the nature of the disc, this makes pretty much every combat situation feel like threading the needle. And even if you try to duck behind cover because the enemies all have perfect aim, no matter what happens, you are going to take damage.
Every time! It doesn't even matter where you are. You'll just suddenly be set upon by loads of discs with no real
There are other weapons that you can use in the game as well, but I'll come back to those later. For the most part, getting through levels in Tron 2.0 sounds pretty easy. Just get from point A to point B, occasionally with a few switches that you need to press or enemies you need to defeat. However, in order to access or operate pretty much anything, you need the right set of keys, or permissions as they're called. These can be found on enemies, in crates, or occasionally are handed to you by NPCs. This doesn't sound too bad, except there are 8 different permissions in all, and often you'll need lots of them in order to advance. This results in a lot of backtracking, as quite often you'll come across a door or a switch that requires permissions that you don't have. Add to that a lot of the environments look similar to each other, and you'll spend a large amount of time getting lost whilst you try to locate that one enemy you killed 15 minutes ago. There have even been a few occasions where I've had to open a crate to get a permission to open another crate containing the permission that I need to advance. And in order to access these permissions, activate switches, or use any of the other weapons available to you in the game, you need to use energy. See that green bar down there? Bane of my existence. Taking anything out of a crate, or downloading it, expends energy and requires you to sit on the spot uninterrupted until it's finished. At least the designers were thoughtful enough to give us some breathing time. However, this is a necessary part of the game, as it's one of the ways in which you get upgrades called subroutines and get access to new weapons. And my god, the weapons are fun. Sure, they might follow the generic FPS lineup, like SMG, sniper, shotgun, and grenade launcher, but they've all got such unique and interesting designs, and they feel so good to use that they just make the game that much more fun. I mean, the sniper rifle is called LOL. You can't get much better than that. However, in order to actually fire any of these weapons, you have to use up energy. The same energy that you still desperately need to open crates, activate switches, and just generally make it through the game. And the only way to replenish lost energy is to go to energy terminals, much like the ones used in Half-Life to regenerate shields. So guess which weapon is the only one that doesn't use up any energy? The goddamn Hylian Frisbee of infinite crappiness. Thankfully, this becomes less of an issue later on in the game when you've leveled up a bit, so you have a larger energy bar, but it just makes the first part of the game so unenjoyable and so annoying. You're constantly worried about saving energy so that you can get the next subroutine or permission that you need because it's so scarce that you just don't end up using any of the other weapons. It's like having to pay to fire your weapon every time, and early on in the game you just can't afford that.
The hit's gonna cost you 50k. Of course it's expensive, I need 40k just to shoot my gun.
But moving along, it wouldn't be a Tron game without the addition of light cycles. This would be a welcome addition to the game if it weren't for the fact that the AI is completely suicidal, and the controls for the light cycle were a little less impossible. The default camera angle for the cycles is just plain awful. You can set it to be manually controlled, but mixing this with the fact that the cycles rotate at a 90-degree angle every time you decide to turn means that more often than not you'll end up crashing into a wall that you didn't even know was there.
Swear to drunk officer, I'm not God.
It occurs to me that most of the review so far has been very negative, but there are a lot of things that the game does do right. As I said before, as you go through the game, you can unlock items and power-ups called subroutines. These are then stored in a tile-based inventory system with a limited amount of space. And hidden within every level are upgrade points where you can take subroutines to increase their power whilst also shrinking their storage size.
I guess Apple missed the memo on that one.
Because the layout of this inventory changes periodically, it constantly has you thinking about which subroutines to bring to every situation. And if you get attacked by an enemy infected with the virus, you'll have to quickly quarantine or destroy your infected subroutines before the virus spreads to your other ones. This is a really inventive concept and really keeps you on your toes when in a fight. And although I said before that a lot of the game's locations are very corridor-based and occasionally similar looking, all of the environments look fantastic. The minimalist textures still stand up today, and all of the character and weapon designs are really cool, looking far more cyberpunk than the sleeker look that Legacy offered. The story is well put together, and the characters are all interesting and for the most part well acted. They even got Bruce Boxleitner to reprise his role as Alan Bradley. And speaking of sound, the soundscape for this game is complete genius. From the atmospheric whirring of the computers to the digitized footsteps, shouts and impacts that the characters create, all of the sound effects really sound how you'd expect them to. Well, almost all of them.
Okay, finally found the right bit for this door, so let's just go ahead and open that and...
Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes.
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 This door just said yes to me.
But ultimately, a lot of this game just feels like missed potential. The world, story, and concepts are all fantastically put together, and if you can struggle through to the point where you're no longer dependent on the discs, it's actually pretty fun. But when the base mechanics are as flawed as they are, it really makes the gameplay feel like more of a chore than it should be. Even so, if you're a fan of Tron and enjoy a good story, then Tron 2.0 is definitely worth a look.
Well, I guess that's that. At least I'll never have to play it again.
Hey, thanks for watching! If you like this video and want to stay up to date with everything I'm doing, feel free to subscribe and follow me on Facebook or Twitter. The show's only just beginning, folks, so watch this space.